Show, episode number 127. I'm your host, Thomas Saxby. As you can see, I don't got anybody, but I had to hop on, had to talk about some baseball. It's currently 3 a.m. I don't care. Maybe my wife cares. Maybe my kid cares. Maybe somebody cares. I don't know, but I'm here to just talk some baseball, talk some sports, talk really whatever comes to mind. You guys know how this goes. I start rambling, and you never know what we're gonna be talking about. But yeah, let's just hop right in. The MLB season just concluded, and what a season it was. As I always say, I thank God for baseball every single day. It's really just been a fun one. It's been a really fun season. I'm honestly even more happier that the Braves collapsed and the Mets collapsed. But if I take my bias out of all that, the Reds, they made the playoffs. They're an exciting young team. The Guardians made one hell of a comeback. We got this MVP race between Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh. We got so much going on in baseball, and it all culminates into one October of baseball. 162 games. It's been, debated about a lot if it's, even worth it. 162 games for baseball. It's a lot. At the end of the day, that's why it's exciting. Like, literally, it took 162 games for the Guardians to catch the Tigers and pass them and win the division. It's honestly just it's bizarre. But other than that, the Red Sox are back in the playoffs. The Blue Jays are back in the playoffs. The Mariners are back in the playoffs. I think that, a lot of teams have a lot on the line, and that's kind of where I really kind of want to start. You think about the Yankees, obviously winning a 28th championship is obviously on the line there. Aaron Judge's legacy, that whole thing. The Red Sox, they want to make some noise. They've been criticized for the Mookie Betts trade, for the Rafael Devers trade. The Blue Jays, they want to make some noise. The Guardians are a very interesting story. Because, and I'm going to explain it a little bit later, but the whole betting, scandal and everything that went on there, Tigers really can't let the season be a disappointment. They're still in the playoffs. They're still alive. You got to fight. You go to the West. The Mariners, the only team to make it out of the AL West. I will smoke one to the Seattle Mariners. What a season for them, especially considering, with Cal Riley and everything going on there. And then the NL, you just got a bloodbath. The Dodgers, the Padres, the Cubs, the Phillies, the Reds, they snuck in, which was cool. Padres are there. Brewers, the Cinderella best team in the whole league. It's really going to be fun. So, I'm here. We're going to talk some baseball. We're going to talk some football. We're going to just see where this episode goes. It's 3 a.m. My wife is sleeping, or maybe she's not. Maybe she's annoyed by me right now. Who knows? But either way, let's dive right in. Yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe, all of that good stuff. Just, keeping the updates going. We're looking for, an upgrade to, this baseball crew. We got me, Cam, and Matt are here every single week to give you football and basketball. V-Man and I are going to spin around with an episode here soon. So a lot's in the works. We also have a lot of ideas. I personally love the baseball off season because it gives me the chance to make some great research videos, which I actually have a few plans in the works. A little bit involving Babe Ruth, a little bit with Alex Rodriguez. I have a lot in store for this off season. So especially if you're a baseball fan, get in tune with us. We have a lot coming out. But for real, really, really quick, let's talk about some football, some headlines, especially since we're coming out of a crazy Sunday. The Cowboys, America's team, and the Green Bay Packers, they actually tied 40-40. That was honestly one of the craziest football games I've ever watched. Dak was just throwing it to whoever was down there. Jordan Love was combating them. It was a back and forth game. Neither defense looked great. But at the end of the day, man, it was a tie game. And I just want to say this. Look, the Cowboys, you may all hate them. I hated them all my life. They stink. They're like, when someone, puts poop in a bag, lights it on fire, drops it on your porch, that's the Dallas Cowboys. But at the end of the day, if we take our hate out of our hearts for the Dallas Cowboys. They're actually a very entertaining and fun team. I might be an Eagles fan, so what? But at the end of the day, I love to watch good football, and the Cowboys are just, I think it's what Jerry Jones had intended it to be. There's always a lot of storylines, there's always a lot of craziness, but no matter what, Dak is going to just throw that football at the end of the day. And I think the most interesting thing about Dak Prescott while we were talking about it is he has to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I know I sound crazy right now talking great about the Dallas Cowboys right now, but at the end of the day, man, you give Dak Dallas Prescott, you give Dak Prescott the football, he's going to do things with it. And at the end of the day, the only person that beats Dak is Dak. If he ever takes that out of his game, I'm pretty sure he's going to probably win an MVP. But that's enough of the Cowboys love. This is weird. But they're pretty entertaining. So Tyreek Hill just broke his leg, a few hours ago actually. While he was being carted off the field, he chants like, he was hyped to have his, leg broken. I don't know what's going on with that dude. I hope he's all right. At the end of the day, I just think that Tyreek Hill is probably just done with football. I think cheering or whatever the hell that was, I don't think it was a personal shot at Tua or the team. He loves Tua, or else he would have absolutely been out of there a long time ago. It's not that no one wants him in the league. It's not that the Dolphins don't want to trade him. I think Tyreek Hill absolutely wanted to be a Miami Dolphin and ride it out with Tua. I'm not saying Tua's a good quarterback at all, but at the end of the day, when it comes to Tyreek Hill, I think at the end of the day, I think he knows this knee injury is bad. Maybe it's the end of his career, and he's elated to finally be done with it all. He's rich. He has about 50 million kids that he needs to go take care of. You know, hats off to Tyreek Hill. That injury was nasty. This is head. I love weed, man. Hold on, I just need one moment. You know, people that still hate on weed are a little ridiculous, man. Because this stuff is greater than alcohol or cigarettes or porn or Donald Trump ever will be. I'm just saying. But no, back back on topic. But for real though, I mean, like, weed is just, it's nothing but therapeutic. It's, the right blunt, the right amount of, that good old THC can really, really help your day. It really can. It can erase a lot of negative things that go on mentally in the brain. Because there's a lot of mental illness these days, and I think a lot of that has to do with social media and everything that goes on in the world. And weed is a good way not to. I mean, I know there's people that are like, I need to smoke weed to eat food, and I need to smoke weed to go to sleep and all this other stuff. But and yeah, those people are weird. But at the end of the day, weed helps. It really does. But Malik Nabers tore his ACL. I know it's a crazy transition. But Malik Nabers tore his ACL. Hats off to that guy. Definitely did not deserve that in the slightest. The Giants, it's going to be a tough watch moving forward. I'm not saying Jackson Dart is bad, but nothing that he did in that win excited me. And now you lose Neighbors. It's going to be another rough season for the Giants, unfortunately. Lamar, another team that's hurting. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, they're hurting. I know I said a couple videos a couple shows ago that Jim Harbaugh should be fired straight up, and I still believe it. I mean, you see it game after game. They don't seem ready. They don't seem motivated. They don't seem really on the same page and ready to go. I think it's a little bit of a mess, and it shouldn't be. The Ravens, they should be the best team in the league. The Ravens, they got to get it together. I mean, I have faith. I think we'll still see them in the playoffs. I think they're going to have a miraculous comeback on the season. I hope Lamar Jackson isn't hurt too much for that. But at the end of the day, this team's way too talented. It would be heartbreaking if they really can't get this going. But they had a tough start to the season. I mean, consider everyone that they faced. I mean, their only win was against the Browns. So it is what it is. But we'll see. but they're hurting, and I absolutely believe something has to, be shaken up at some point. But yeah, no, before we move right back into baseball, what I wanted to introduce was the quarterback competition that I'm running for the different rings. So what I'm going to do is every year from week 4 moving on, we'll have like a little point system. This is, how it ended up being after week 4. So as you can see, Cam Ward, unfortunately, with the terrible, terrible game that he had, and Jake Browning, of course, he's just not getting it going at all for Cincinnati. They're eliminated from the competition. So every week, a couple quarterbacks will be eliminated from the competition with the idea that there will be 2 quarterbacks at the end of this in the first or second round of the playoffs, that go head to head for the different ring. And we'll be tracking it throughout the season. I think it'll be fun. We'll basically see what happens. But yeah, here's the standings, and there you have it. So I wanted to move back on to baseball. So the biggest surprise and disappointment this MLB season. So for the biggest surprise, I definitely got to go with the Cleveland Guardians here. When it comes to the Cleveland Guardians, especially after they went down 15 games in the standings, it's very surprising to see them at the top. Interesting stat. Since July 3rd, since they started investigating Luis Ortiz and they put him on leave, the Guardians are the best team in baseball. That is insane. Yes, the Guardians of all teams are the best team in baseball since that date, and it got them all the way into the playoffs. It got them to winning the AL Central. Again, a division that the Tigers had locked up in the summer. It should have been over, and it's one of the biggest collapses. Honestly, it's the biggest collapse of all time. But the Guardians, Jose Ramirez is a fantastic baseball player and leader. They consistently have a whole lot of guys in deep depth, and here they are. It'll be interesting where they go because I think it's all gonna fall apart in the offseason because if Class A and Ortiz are suspended, I'm pretty sure some other guys get suspended. I don't know, maybe the manager's involved, front office. But the most interesting thing about this is that the Guardians are on a generational run, right? So if these 2 players were innocent, they would have already been brought back by now, you would think. But it doesn't seem like MLB is letting up. It seems like their suspension's going into the playoffs. And I really think it's going to be ugly. Now, the reason why I say that is because what happened with the Houston Astros was that after the Washington Nationals had beat them for the World Series championship, the story came out 3 days later. There was also some reports that, some teams knew about it, which is why you saw some teams being overly protective of their pitches, especially the Nationals if you pay closer attention to the World Series matchup. But yeah, no, sorry, I started rambling. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. And the biggest disappointment, I think it's obvious. I don't think it's the Tigers. I think, maybe they got way too ahead of themselves. I don't know what the case may be with them, but when it comes to the biggest disappointment, it's the New York Mets, the second biggest payroll in the league. You kidding me? How did how did that miss the playoffs? But I'll always say that I respect Cohen, the Mets general manager, president of baseball the guy that's or owner. My bad, owner. I'm tweaking. The owner of the Mets. He sent a big apology message right away. He's been active with the fans. He's doing his part. He's signing the players. I think Carlos Mendoza should be fired for this. Because yeah, I get it. Their pitching was very up and down. Their pitching ended up being really, really bad. I don't know if the pitching coach is going to end up fired for this. But they had downright, I think it was like a 6.48 ERA in the last month of the season from their starting pitching alone, and it's that's not pretty. But as much as I hate the Mets, it has to suck being a Mets fan. I don't think Juan Soto had anything to do with this. I really think like when the players are all unmotivated, like the division or the wild card was the Mets for a while. All they had to do was win a couple games, and it just didn't happen. And then the Marlins came in, ended their season. The Marlins played a World Series-esque baseball at the end of the season versus the Mets. And it's really just insane how bad the Mets crashed there. But it's how it is every season. The Mets have generational crash outs, and it's the New York Mets. It's a New York Met thing. But if we are to discuss the playoff matchups, so the Guardians and the Tigers, interestingly enough, the two teams that just battled it out for the division, 15 game separation, Guardians come back. They're facing in the playoffs. And I think it's going to be a good one. The Tigers were able to save Skubal for this game one matchup, and I really think it's going to set the tone in the series. I think the Tigers win game one, lose game two, but I think the Tigers win game three. The story for the Guardians has been great, but if there's one thing about AJ Hinch is that he will have his team ready to go for the playoffs. I have a lot of faith and trust in it. I think the Tigers are going to at least win this first series. 2-1. I think it'll be the only series that goes to three. And that's because I have the Yankees beating the Red Sox. Now, let me take a step back here real quick. This is going to be a fun matchup. I think it's going to be a big, big game of chess because you got, Crochet in game one going up against Max Fried. That's going to be one hell of a matchup, and I think it sets the tone. Whoever wins game one is going to win the series. And it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be another classic Red Sox over Yankees uppercut, or the Yankees are going to run through the Boston Red Sox. I'm going to lean towards the Yankees running through the Boston Red Sox. The only reason I say that is because Stanton's on fire. Judge is on fire. That lineup is on fire going in. And it's going to be very overwhelming for the Red Sox, who have somewhat of a lackadaisical offense. Not totally entirely. Like, they have an offense that can get the job done, but they're gonna have to keep up with what the Yankees have been doing, and I'm gonna break it down in the next segment. Aaron Judge, I think he's gonna perform, man. I think it's time. I don't know if I'm going crazy. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but I think Aaron Judge is finally gonna have a good postseason. Now, I have the Dodgers beating the Reds in 2 games. Now, this is an interesting series because the Reds have the pitching for it. If this is the tough thing about 3-game series and why I think it's criminal to have a 3-game matchup, because the Dodgers can get absolutely punished here. They can get absolutely punished here. I think they got to make these 5-game series somewhat. Do what you gotta do, but or maybe a 1 game, and these games are just some of the best games we've ever watched with how intense it would be. But at the end of the day, if the Dodgers pitchers randomly don't have it, this is gonna be an awkward series. But I got the Dodgers in 2, and then the Padres and Cubs. I got the Padres in 2. Look, the Cubs have had a great season. Their offense is great. I just think the Padres pitching is perfect when you really, really look into it. Pivetta, Cease, Michael King, Yu Darvish, and Cortez are there as depth pieces, but I just don't think the Cubs are going to have an answer for this Padres pitching. At least I think, on the other end of it, the Padres, I think their offense is going to abuse Chicago. Unfortunately, they lost Cade Horton. He's probably not going to play unless the Cubs advance, maybe to the NLDS or NLCS. Kyle Tucker isn't 100%. The Cubs pitching's all over the place, but we could get some generational games from those guys. It could be. But I got the Padres in 2. I'll make that take in a second. So which players have the most on the line in this season? Personally, who do you guys think has the most on the line in this postseason? Me, I think the answer is obvious. I think there's a big spotlight on the man himself, Aaron Judge. The reason being is because I still think that the Yankees window is open, as crazy as that sounds, as much as people have doubted the Yankees all year long. When it comes to the New York Yankees, I think Aaron Judge, if he just performs, I think they can go all the way. Now, I know I said last year that it was, the Yankees had to win that one, Juan Soto and everything, but I say they've managed to rebound, decently. Obviously, they're in the playoffs. The Mets aren't. I think, Cody Bellinger was a beautiful pickup for the New York Yankees. But at the end of the day, Aaron Judge needs to perform. If he doesn't perform and the Yankees get bounced at some point, it's going to look bad because we go every season how and talk about how amazing Aaron Judge is. If he doesn't perform in this playoffs, what is he? Is he just a regular season guy? That's heartbreaking. I love Aaron Judge. I want to defend Aaron Judge. I need it in my blood. I need it in my veins. I need an Aaron Judge generational postseason run. I don't know what happens. He gets really nervous. I don't know. But if Aaron Judge locks in, though, the Yankees are going to get another championship. And I think he has the most on the line because if he doesn't, if the Yankees lose, and a lot of it's because his bat didn't get going or he dropped a stupid fly ball or something like that, the talks are going to be there. Maybe the worst captain of all time. It's sad because he's doing so well at the plate. He's so generational. Some underrated picks for that. I have Manny Machado and Bryce Harper. Now, the reason why they're underrated picks, Manny Machado, I think he's just a great baseball player no matter what. But I think if he's able to lead those Padres to a championship, help lead the Padres to a championship because obviously they have a lot of good talent, that would look great on his legacy. He would be all time. Manny Machado would be that dude. And Bryce Harper, the years are going on. He left the Washington Nationals, still hasn't won a championship. The reason why it's underrated, I would put him higher up. But I think when the Phillies lost Zach Wheeler, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, I just don't think I thought they lost their chances. Really, I don't take them seriously because now you have to put Jesus Luzardo in a really important position. He's very known to melt down in those important positions. I think you're gonna have to ask Taijuan Walker to do something. Ranger Suarez, you never know what you're really gonna get, especially when we get down to it. Zach Wheeler was the guy that kind of anchored that whole rotation, and I really did believe in the Phillies until they lost him. And then Trey Turner isn't 100% either. But at the end of the day, the years keep ticking along. If this is another Phillies lost season, Bryce Harper, do you request to get out at some point? Maybe. Because Bryce Harper, his legacy could be so good if he added a championship to it, especially a Phillies championship. But when we look at the bye teams and their chances to win it all, right? We got the Mariners, the Blue Jays, the Phillies, and the Brewers. I don't think the Phillies have a chance. Call me a hater, call me whatever you want. I just don't think they're going to get it done. I really don't. I kind of fear whoever comes out of the wild card, Dodgers, Padres, Cubs, are dangerous matchups for the Phillies. The Reds, maybe the Phillies can get lucky. Maybe the Reds can move on, and they face them at some point. But I don't think the Phillies really have a chance. And look, I could be swallowing crow here. I did this before. Yeah, when it comes to the Phillies, I have to cross them out. I have to give them the X. Now the next X, I have to give it to the Toronto Blue Jays. I don't know. I don't believe it. I'm not sipping the tea. At the end of the day, I think one of the underrated moves in the offseason was the Toronto Blue Jays extending Vladdy Guerrero Jr. Bo Bichette, one of the best hitters in the league this year. Their pitching has done good. I don't really trust their bullpen. I think they're going to get real shaky under pressure. I think they're going to lose to that AL team that comes out with momentum. So that leaves the Mariners and the Brewers. Their chances. And by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if the Phillies or the Jays go on a run. Like I said, with the Blue Jays, it somewhat feels right with Vladimir Guerrero, not gonna lie. But I don't know. Unless Jeff Hoffman turns into this legendary closer, I just really can't see it. The Seattle Mariners and the Milwaukee Brewers, man, I think they both have decent chances. My issue with the Milwaukee Brewers, though, is no one moves me in the postseason on that team. Brandon Woodruff, I don't think he's gonna be there. I think Mizorowski, very overrated. I'll just say it. I think he's overrated. They gave him a lot of flowers too early, and I think that's gonna happen in the postseason too. I think there's gonna be a lot of eyes on him, and it's gonna be a good test to see if this dude is really a dog or not. But at the end of the day, I don't know. There's no bat that truly, truly, truly scares me there. I mean, Shario, of course, you got to be scared of that bat. Rhys Hoskins is pretty clutch in the playoffs. We'll see if he can give them anything. But when it comes to the Dodgers and the Padres, I just like them so much more. I absolutely like them so much more. But I just would not be shocked. It's a nice, talented young team. But I do think out of this bunch, out of this four, I think the Mariners have a good chance. By the way, shout out to the Seattle Mariners. Um, Wolfie and Ricky were on this pod, shitting on their decision making, shitting on their logic, and it was deserved for a while there. They just weren't doing nothing about it. But they struck at the perfect time because, granted, Naylor and Eugenio Suarez are going to be free agents at the end of the season. But right here, right now, I think they made the right moves. They needed some impact hitters in that lineup, and now their lineup is locked and loaded. I think Julio Rodriguez is hot at the right time. Cal Raleigh obviously just got 60 home runs. Their pitching is obviously one of the best pitching staffs in the league. Is the only thing that I was concerned about that is Woo. I mean, at the end of the day, they do get the bye, so we're gonna assume that he can play. Yeah, I forgot all about that they have the bye. So yeah, Woo, Gilbert, Luis Castillo seems like he caught himself right before he was about to completely crash out. And Emerson Hancock has been surprisingly good this year too. Bryce Miller's kind of fallen apart a little bit, but both of those two are good options. If you want to run, a little 3 innings from each in a game, see if, one gets hot, whatever have you. But if I had a pick to make the World Series, I know it's at the end of the day, I'm going to have my picks, but I think the Seattle Mariners have everything at the right time. They have the magic, they have the excitement. Seattle's going to be nuts. It's going to be an environment to see when we get there. They have the MVP. I think it's crazy underrated that they have Julio Rodriguez now, considering that your catcher's hitting 60 home runs. Everything seems right. I think Eugenio Suarez is going to hit some memorable bombs. I think it's going to be good. And speaking of playoff moments, the top 5 playoff moments in my history of watching baseball. So obviously you have some events from the past. I mean, in 2001, I was 3. I didn't watch it when Luis Gonzalez hit that single to beat the Yankees. But in my opinion, in my eyes, that would be one of the best moments ever. But number 5, I got Howie Kendrick hitting that 2019 Grand Slam against the Dodgers. I know I'm a little biased because I'm a Nationals fan, but you just had to be there for that. That was one of the biggest shocks ever. Can I say that? No, I think the Nationals postseason run needs to get more eyes. It needs a documentary. It was very improbable. I don't care what anyone tells me. But when it comes to Howie Kendrick hitting that Grand Slam against the Dodgers, it took the life out of the Dodgers. It shocked everybody. It knocked off the Dodgers, and that kind of planted the seeds that the Nationals were going to go on a run. It was pretty insane because everyone counted them out in this series against the Dodgers, man. It was tough, but the Nationals got through. Number 4, I got David Ortiz's walk-off home run in Game 4 versus the Yankees. Now, believe it or not, that 2004, and I know I said I was 3 in 2001. I was like 7 in 2004. But that series with the Red Sox and the Yankees got me into baseball. Why? Did I have any idea what was going on? No. But I was around a lot of people that knew what was going on. It was intense. I have both Red Sox and Yankees fans in my family. It was arguments. The house was rocking always. Beers were flying. It was popcorn. Well, no, not popcorn. You remember those little blue tins of cookies? That you would get around Christmas or whatever, but you would get them a little bit earlier. You would stock up on these tins of cookies. We took a lot for granted in this life. Fa la la la. I cannot wait for the holidays. But at the end of the day, those cookies were flying everywhere. But the Red Sox, when they came back, and majority of my family, me being from New York, are Yankee fans. It was depressing, and the reason why I remember that specific blue tin of Christmas, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? That blue Christmas brown tin. It went flying and cookies went everywhere. I remember that specifically. But number three, I got Roy Halladay's no. Roy Halladay's no hitter in the playoffs. I was watching that game. That was insane to just watch how that all unfolded. It was literally history. You have to have ice in your veins to pitch a no hitter in the postseason. I mean, I know Roy Halladay never won a championship with the Phillies, but that was an insane moment. Number two, I got David Freese hitting a home run, Cardinals over the Rangers. It broke my heart because I was really pushing for the Rangers in that World Series. But this dude, David Freese, when he hit that home run, it was insane because it's like, first off, who the hell is this guy? What audacity does he have just stepping up in that big of a moment and just delivering not once but twice in the same game? We'll see you tomorrow night. The audacity of that guy, the balls, the straight up balls of that guy, but also the stupidity of the Rangers. Because I don't know why Nelson Cruz wasn't playing no doubles, but that's a conversation for a different episode. But number one is the Cubs breaking the curse, winning the World Series 2016. If you missed 2016, all the kids that are born in 2017, you missed out on the greatest year of all time recently. There hasn't been a lot of good years. That's why this is a great year. But it was a year. It was definitely a year to be alive at the end of the day. And the Cubs, they broke the curse that year. Like a lot of improbable things happened that year. Donald Trump became president that year. The Cleveland Cavaliers came back from being down 3-1 to win the finals that year. Absolutely nuts. 2016, different or not? 2016, different. Come on, 2016 was an insane year. But what I want to also talk about on this episode is the worst franchise of all time. We're almost done, this is great. We flew through this episode. I don't know, man. This is a short one. But best franchise of all time, or worst franchise of all time. I'll cut that other shit out. But worst franchise of all time. You have to consider that if you win a World Series, multiple World Series, you can't be on this list. You just can't. There's literally teams that haven't won championships. So if you won two or more, I think you automatically get a pass. You're not the worst franchise of all time. So that's Yankees, Cardinals, Red Sox, Athletics, Dodgers, Giants, Pirates, Reds, Braves, Tigers, White Sox, Twins, Orioles, Cubs, White Sox, Phillies, Guardians, Mets, Astros, Royals, Jays, and Marlins. They are all automatically off the list. And I know the White Sox suck. The Mets suck. The Marlins suck. They all have a case, but they all have two World Series championships. Two or more, I should say. So they're not on that list. So that leaves the teams with one championship. The Rangers, the Diamondbacks, the Angels, and the Nationals. Now, all these teams are interesting, but they all have a championship. I don't think none of those championships were flukes. At the end of the day, the Rangers, they were a light show. They absolutely lit it up that year. I get it, a very forgettable World Series against the Diamondbacks, but they lit it up that year. It was a very memorable offensive, downpour for them. The Diamondbacks, like I said, 2001 winning with the walk-off single, great championship. The Angels winning in, I think it was 2002, beating Barry Bonds, winning the World Series. Absolute cinema, magic. And then the Washington Nationals, huge story, 2019. And then they were also very dominant during those years as well. Definitely picked up for the Expos because I would have had the Expos here if the Nationals never won that championship. Scary thing to say. And then also the Nationals have been the worst team following a World Series win. It pains me to say it. Look up the facts. No team has this many fifth place finishes after winning the World Series ever. One fourth place finish since. No third, second, or first, and it should have been this year. It's frustrating. But on that end, the Nationals hired Paul Taboni. Hopefully he's not a jabroni, and I think he's great. He's 35, bro. He's 35 and just got hired to run an entire baseball team. That's a dream, man. That is absolutely a dream. He was an absolute shark in Boston. A lot of people, after he got signed, came out and said that he was one of the huge drivers for the Red Sox success recently. And I want to point that out that maybe they haven't made it to the playoffs too much, or maybe they haven't won too much, but their player development has been insane, and they've had a lot of bad luck recently in the last few years. And obviously, it doesn't help that they traded Betts and Devers, which I don't think he really had too much to do with. It was more so ownership. I love him for the Washington Nationals. I think he's going to be a Shark. Next tier, we have the rest of the teams: the Padres, the Rays, the Brewers, the Rockies, and the Mariners. Now, when it comes to the Padres, I think no matter what, at the end of the day, besides a short span, they've always tried to be competitive. They always have tried. They've always have been there. They've always had, been a pain in the ass. They have a lot of legends on that team. I think, the way that the Padres have ran their team recently, it should be how other teams do it. They've been spending their money. They have been aggressive with trading. They're not waiting. I mean, all these years they've had weird teams, especially these past couple, and they've just kept trying to push through and push through. I don't think they're the worst franchise of all time. The Tampa Bay Rays, since they've been established, they are another team that's just always in it. Even when they're bad, they're always raising hell. Like this year, raising hell. If Wander Franco panned out, him and Camionero would have been the craziest duo alive. But unfortunately, dudes are sick. So I think the Reds aren't on that list. Now, that leaves three teams. I have to take the Brewers off this. Legendary team. Oh, they have been in it for as far as I can remember. They've had to rebuild a few, nasty rebuilds, but they weren't as nasty as they could have been. I think that's the most you can ask for a winless team. I don't think they're the worst team of all time or franchise of all time. Now, so Rockies and the Mariners, I get it. The Mariners have never once sniffed a World Series. I get it. I understand. But when you consider the lore, Ken Griffey, Ichiro, A-Rod, Edgar, you just keep going down and down the list. Now you can add Cal Riley to that list, Julio Rodriguez to that list, all their pitching, Randy Johnson back in the day, the pitchers they have now, King Felix in the middle. I think it's justified that they are better than the Colorado Rockies. I think the Colorado Rockies are the most defunct franchise in sports. They are absolutely the worst franchise in baseball history. I think that's that. The Colorado Rockies, I think it's just stupid decision making. If they really cared about winning, they would get their stadium away from Coors, because the narrative always kills them. Pitchers do not want to go there. They can't even develop rookie pitchers. It's the toughest thing ever. So at the end of the day, I think the Rockies have a lot of issues. They still haven't won a World Series. They made a World Series off of sheer luck, and they got crushed. And that's all you have for the Rockies' history. Whereas in comparison with the Mariners, they have all these players, legendary players. They have, legendary runs in the past. They're making their way, now. And I think, we could be taking them off of that World Series list. It would be cool for the Mariners and Padres, or the Mariners and Brewers, to meet up for their first championship. It would be a huge storyline. And, speaking of that, with my playoff bracket predictions, I'm going to run through these real quick. So the Tigers, like I said, I got the Tigers over the Guardians, 3 games. Yankees over the Red Sox, 2 games. Mariners over the Tigers. Yeah. So in the American League, the Tigers would advance to face the Seattle Mariners. I got the Seattle Mariners beating the Tigers in 4 games in the NLDS. I think the Tigers they'll win one, maybe the one that Screwball pitches. But at the end of the day, I think the Mariners are going to handle the Tigers. They're going to be all over their pitching. That's not Screwball. And I think they can even rattle Screwball there as well. Because, the Tigers' offense seems pretty dead. I mean, if their offense randomly comes alive, great. But I just don't. I don't know. I don't know if I see it when it comes to the Tigers to get past the Mariners. Yankees and Blue Jays, I think the Yankees beat the brakes off of the Blue Jays. I think it'll be a sweep. I think the Jays will make it interesting each game, but I think the Yankees are going to mow through those guys. Now, Yankees and Mariners, to see who goes to the World Series, this was tough. I could see a 7-game series. There's going to be a lot of, the Ken Griffey Jr. talk, never wanting to go to the Yankees, and Vlad Guerrero saying it. Vlad Guerrero is, now the face of the Toronto Blue Jays. Can they finally, or wow, I am tweaking. I was talking about Vladimir Guerrero. But the Ken Griffey Jr. stuff with the Mariners, to now the Mariners, Cal Riley versus Aaron Judge. It would be such a fun series. I think the Yankees beat the Mariners in 7. Now the Dodgers, like I said, in 2 over the Cubs. The Padres in 2 over the Cubs. The Dodgers in 2 over the Reds. Now I think the Dodgers beat the Phillies. I think they'll also sweep them. So at this point, they would have swept everybody. A lot of hype, everything. I think the Padres are going to beat the Brewers in a 6-7 game series. It's not that the Brewers are bad or anything. I just think the Padres are going to go on a run. I think they're going to beat the Dodgers. Maybe a hot take here. I think the San Diego Padres are going to advance past the Dodgers once they get there. I think the Padres, after what happened last year, they got a salty taste in their mouth. I think they absolutely want to go all the way. They want to stop the Dodgers from, adding on to their dynasty. And then when they get to the World Series, they'll have so much momentum coming out of it. I think they beat the Yankees. Yes, I think the Yankees are going to lose back-to-back World Series. I think Aaron Judge will still have a hell of a playoffs. But I truly think that we're gearing towards the San Diego Padres' first World Series championship. That's my big hot take, bold decision. But, a couple more things before we get out of here. I wanted to show off this graphic right here. So this is a graphic of, I put together a stat. So what it puts together is teams' past playoff performance, their pitching and hitting statistics coming into this, including runs and scoring position, all that good stuff, coaching experience, health, all that, to give a number of what team is most expected to pull out the World Series. As you can see, the Dodgers are first, 219 on the different scale. Yankees second, but they're just above the Mariners. That's why I think it's going to be such a close series if they meet. The Padres are up there. The Phillies are up there. Brewers are up there. And then as you can see below, this was generated if the Astros or Mets had made the playoffs. The Tigers have the least amount of chance of, even lower than the Reds, going into this. It's just because of how cold they are. It's really tough to go into October cold and pull out something out of your ass. You can ask a lot of teams that. I mean, the Mets are such a victim to it. They're not even going to be in October this year. But let me know what you think about that scale. Let me know. I combined a lot of things here. It's asking for a Dodgers Yankees World Series rematch. I wouldn't mind, I guess. I just don't think the Yankees can pull it out against some of these NL teams. So different or not, we're going to get some dudes in. Shohei Ohtani is first. So Shohei Ohtani, different or not, I think Shohei Ohtani is absolutely different. He's in top 3 of the GOAT debate. I think baseball, for the first time ever, is finally going to get a correct GOAT debate. Barry Bonds, Shohei Ohtani. The debates ahead are going to be fun. Because at the end of the day, Barry Bonds is starting to finally get the respect that he deserves. And Shohei Ohtani, though, you can't deny what you're seeing. You have never seen this before. I don't care what you say about Babe Ruth. Go look back at his stats. He only had one season where he was a full-time hitter and pitcher. And at the end of the day, it's nothing even close to what Shohei Ohtani has done. And now he's back doing it. He's going to do it in the playoffs. If they win a ring off of this, what does that do for his legacy? Designate, or not switch or designated hitter. He does both. He pitches, he hits, he is different. Shohei Ohtani is a dog. I've never seen, he's a baseball machine. He's the LeBron of baseball. And like I said, it's going to be absolutely interesting with the debates there. And number 2 is the guy that we're going to be debating him with, Barry fucking Bonds. You guys know me. I love Barry Bonds. He is absolutely different. I don't care what you say about steroids. Steroids did not make him as good of a baseball player as he was. Did it make him powerful? Yes. But you have to have the eye coordination, the hand movement, the hip movement, the leg movements, like you have to have all that because you're facing 90 plus miles per hour, and everyone was juiced in that era. So the pitchers that he was facing were juiced. And I think that's very impressive because players were throwing pitches that had never been seen before during that era. Barry Bonds said, fuck you and those pitches. Got them the hell on out of there. Now, with that being said, I think he needs to go to the Hall of Fame. Barry Bonds is different. I don't care what asterisk. You could shove it up your ass. Barry Bonds is, Godzilla on the baseball field. So he's different. The third person, Ichiro, I think is absolutely different. Going into the Hall of Fame last year, seeing Ichiro do what he did, having as many hits as he did, the most hits combined if you look at what he did in Japan. And he got a late start, like a super late start, and still had 3,000 hits in America. I wish the Mariners were a better team for both him and Felix Hernandez's sake. But for one of the best hitters of all time, maybe he's in that top 10. I got Ichiro because his hitting numbers have always been insane. That's three players that are different. Now, Fernando Valenzuela, I mean, I don't want to put anybody in. Did win a Cy Young early on in his career. Wasn't overly exciting after that. 1981 wasn't a crazy. He won it in his rookie year, though. 240 strikeouts sometimes. A lot of innings. Gosh. He had 11 complete games that year. Ooh, this is good. He won a World Series with the Dodgers, right? Yes, he did. But I'm going to say no. He's right there, but I'm going to say no. What a dude, though. Looking into these stats, it's crazy. His rookie year. Wow. I knew that, but 11 complete. Oh, he had 20 complete games in a season one time. Didn't even come up on the Cy Young rankings. Oh, I know he did. He finished second. Who did he lose to? Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, and that's really all I got. So with that being said, make sure you guys subscribe, leave some feedback. We're gonna be here all playoffs. If it's just me, myself, and I, it's me, myself, and I. I don't care. We will get through. So listen, when you need the best laughs, the hottest takes, the most different aura, make sure you come through to us. Hope you guys enjoyed me talking your ear off about baseball. For close to an hour. Make sure you have a good day, night, whatever it is when you're watching. Peace.